The cameras flashed like gunfire the night Alexander Grayson, billionaire tech mogul, and the king of corporate charm, pulled a fragile, dirt-smudged girl from the crowd and draped his tailored coat around her trembling shoulders. "I'm adopting her," he announced with a polished smile, his voice echoing through the charity gala like a thunderclap. "She deserves a second chance." The room erupted in applause. Everyone saw a savior. No one saw the storm he had just welcomed into his mansion. No one saw Luna, 19, homeless, and armed with a past soaked in secrets and fire, tighten her grip on the blood-stained locket around her neck. No one saw the way her eyes, wide and innocent under the chandelier's glare, flickered with something colder than survival. Vengeance. She wasn't there to be saved. She was there to burn him down, piece by piece, lie by lie, until the man who ruined her family was left with nothing but ash and silence. And Alexander. He thought he had adopted a helpless girl. Instead, he'd invited a ghost into his home. A ghost who remembered everything. Before continuing this story, let us know where are you watching from today, if you want to enjoy this story. So watch till the end. Let's begin our story. The sound of champagne glasses clinking echoed through the grand ballroom of the Halcyon Hotel. Golden chandeliers glimmered above, casting a soft, artificial glow on the polished marble floor. Waiters in white gloves glided through the crowd, serving caviar on silver trays. Laughter, small talk, and the low hum of classical music filled the space. At the center of the room stood Alexander Grayson, tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that commanded silence before he even spoke. Alexander was the type of man whose suits were always perfectly tailored, and whose smile never quite reached his eyes. His black hair was slicked back, not a strand out of place, and his sharp jawline made him look like he was carved out of ice. At 42, he was a billionaire tech mogul, CEO of Grayson Technologies, known as much for his cold business tactics as for his sudden bursts of philanthropy. To the public, he was the man who gave scholarships, funded hospitals, and delivered TED Talks on leading with compassion. But those close to him, very few by design, knew he measured kindness in clicks and conversions. Every good deed had to return value. Tonight was no different. As camera flashes sparked like tiny explosions, Alexander posed with orphanage donors and university deans, shaking hands with a practiced warmth. But his gaze drifted toward the entrance of the ballroom, to the reporters waiting outside the velvet rope. He had a scandal to bury. Last week, an expose by a whistleblower had gone viral. Allegations that workers in his Southeast Asian factories were collapsing from exhaustion. Children sewing smartwatches. His PR team scrambled to control the damage, and tonight's gala was their grand solution. A charity auction supporting youth without homes. He would play savior. Again. "Mr. Grayson," murmured Melissa, his assistant, sliding up beside him in a navy silk dress, earpiece buzzing. "Channel 9 is live in 10 minutes. They want a statement about your new initiative, and the girl is here." Alexander didn't look at her. He was sipping his bourbon. "Is she at least clean?" Melissa hesitated. "We gave her a shower and new clothes, but she's not exactly thrilled," he smirked. "She doesn't need to be, just needs to look saved." Outside the glittering ballroom, Luna stood under the shadow of the entrance arch, hands clenched tightly into fists at her sides. She was 19, though life had aged her faster. Her eyes were a deep brown, almost black, with a steady, burning defiance in them. Her face was oval-shaped, soft but smudged by the kind of fatigue you don't sleep off. A small scar ran above her left eyebrow, a memory from a shelter fight. Her long black hair was tied back into a frizzy ponytail, and though they'd dressed her in a simple blue dress and heels, she stood like someone ready to run. She didn't belong here, and she didn't want to. "Take a deep breath," the woman in front of her whispered. "Smile. Remember, he's saving your life." Luna scoffed. He's saving his own ass. The camera crew was already setting up. Reporters scribbled notes. Alexander stepped outside, smiling like he owned the world, which he almost did. He extended a hand toward Luna. "Luna, isn't it?" he said, voice warm, charming. "I'm Alexander Grayson. I heard your story. I'd be honored if you let me help you." Luna stared at his hand. She had slept under bridges, eaten out of trash bins, and watched men follow her with hungry eyes. She didn't trust easily, and definitely not this polished man with polished lies. "I don't need your pity," she said coldly. There was an awkward pause. Cameras caught it. Melissa's eye twitched in the background. Alexander, still smiling, leaned in a little closer. His voice dropped, low and calm, like a parent warning a child in church. "You want to help your little brother, right? What was his name again? Emil? Stage 3 lymphoma? We've already spoken to the hospital. Treatment starts Monday. All you have to do is play along." Luna's breath caught. Her lips parted slightly, eyes wide for just a second. He knew. She looked away, her jaw tightening. "Fine." She took his hand. The cameras flashed. For the next 2 weeks, Luna lived in a different world. The Grayson penthouse overlooked the city from the top of a glass tower, floor-to-ceiling windows, an indoor pool, silent maids who never made eye contact. Everything smelled like new leather and expensive cologne. Alexander never raised his voice. He didn't need to. His authority was built into the walls. He gave Luna a bedroom bigger than the entire shelter she used to sleep in. There were soft towels, skincare products, a closet full of clothes she didn't ask for. He even gave her a new phone. "I want you to be safe," he said with a smile that didn't quite touch his eyes. "You're part of the family now." At night, Luna lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Safe. The word tasted like rust. She still kept the locket under her pillow, an old silver oval with cracked glass, and a photo inside, faded with time. Her parents. Both of them smiling, arms around her younger self. But the back of the locket was stained, brownish red. Blood. She never cleaned it. Because she didn't want to forget. The fire had taken everything. Her parents had worked in a chemical factory that exploded 3 years ago. Official reports said it was a system error. But Luna remembered the screams. She remembered her father coughing up smoke as he pushed her out the back exit. She remembered hearing whispers at the shelter afterward, about Grayson Technologies, about how that factory belonged to him. And now, the man who destroyed her life was calling her family. She would smile. She would play the part. But she had not forgiven. The days passed like scenes from a movie Luna never auditioned for. Every morning, she woke up in silk sheets, ate breakfast prepared by chefs who didn't speak to her, and rode in a black town car to carefully staged events, interviews, charity photo shoots, brunches with wealthy wives who smelled like roses and condescension. But she played her part. She smiled politely when asked about her new life, wore the designer dresses, and allowed her picture to be taken next to Alexander, who always rested a possessive hand on her shoulder. "She's a bright soul," he'd say to the cameras, eyes twinkling with manufactured warmth. "I didn't just adopt her. I believe in her." She hated every second of it. Behind closed doors, the tone changed. "You need to look less tense in photos," he told her one evening after an interview. "Your shoulders, you hunch." Luna turned to him slowly, her voice like ice. "Maybe I'm tense because I'm not a show dog." Alexander chuckled without humor. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, his reflection blending with the skyline. He didn't even look at her when he said, "You're a symbol, Luna. Of change, of hope. Act like it." She clenched her fists. "If I'm a symbol," she said, voice rising slightly, "then what does that make you?" He turned then, slowly, with a kind of calm that felt threatening. "Smart girl," he said quietly. "Don't push it." There was a flicker of something in his eyes. Something cruel, like a mask slipping for just a second. Then it was gone. He walked away, leaving her alone in the high-rise silence. That night, Luna snuck into his office. The lock was easy. He probably never expected her to try. His office was cold, spotless. On the wall hung awards, news articles, and a large framed photo of Alexander shaking hands with world leaders. She moved to the desk. The drawers were locked. She knelt down, eyes scanning the bottom. A fingerprint scanner blinked red. She stared at it. Too risky. For now. Instead, she looked around and found it on the bookshelf. A small, leather-bound notebook, hidden behind rows of business memoirs. She opened it. Inside, codes, project names, acronyms she didn't recognize, except one. Project Kepler, internal review, 6 casualties. She froze. Kepler was the name of the factory. Her throat tightened. The page had coordinates, file numbers, names. Her mother's was circled. She shut the notebook, heart hammering, and slid it into her coat. She couldn't breathe. The next morning, Alexander was waiting for her at breakfast. He looked freshly shaved, wearing a charcoal suit and reading the paper like always. His expression was unreadable. "Sleep well?" he asked, not looking up. Luna forced a nod. "Good," he said. "We have guests coming tonight. I expect you to be presentable." "Guests?" He glanced up then, and there it was, cold amusement. "A few of my associates. They're curious about you, curious about our little success story." Luna picked up her fork, but her hand was trembling. Alexander noticed. He tilted his head. "Are you nervous?" he asked, almost softly. She met his eyes, her face calm, voice even. "Number just nauseous." For a second he smiled. A real one, but it wasn't kind. That night, the penthouse was lit like a palace. Crystal glasses clinked. Men in expensive suits laughed too loudly. Women with diamond necklaces greeted Luna like she was some exotic pet. One of them, a blonde woman with fake lashes, leaned close and whispered, "It's so inspiring what Mr. Grayson did for you." Luna forced a smile. "He's a saint." Alexander stood across the room, watching her. A man beside him, tall, early 30s, with slightly messy brown hair, leaned in to whisper something. Alexander laughed, genuine this time, and clapped him on the back. Luna's heart stopped. She recognized that man. Jared. She had seen his photo once, buried in an online article about Grayson's family. The article mentioned Jared was his only child, from a previous marriage that ended in tragedy. After his mother's suicide, Jared had vanished from the media. Some said rehab. Others said worse. Now he was here, and he looked uncomfortable. Their eyes met across the room. He looked surprised, curious. She looked away. Later, she found him near the balcony, sipping scotch alone. "Nice party," she said, approaching. He turned, eyebrows raising. "You're the adopted daughter, right?" She nodded. "And you're the forgotten son." He laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "You do your research." Luna leaned on the railing. The city lights blurred in the glass. "I know what it's like," she said softly, "to be used." Jared looked at her, eyes dark with something familiar. Sadness, rage. "You think you're using him," he said, "but he's always 5 steps ahead. That's the trap." She looked at him. "You sound like you've tried." "I have," he said quietly, "and I lost everything." There was silence. Then he said, almost too softly to hear, "But maybe this time, we don't have to play alone." Their eyes met again, and something shifted. Not trust. Not yet. But recognition. 2 broken pieces, finally seeing each other. The rain came down in soft sheets the next night, pattering gently against the tall glass windows of the penthouse. From the outside, the place still looked like a dream. On the inside, Luna felt like a bird in a crystal cage. She sat on the floor of her room, legs crossed, the leather notebook Alexander had hidden spread open in front of her. She was copying every detail into a sketchpad, page by page. The names, the locations, the dates. She didn't fully understand what most of it meant yet, but she would figure it out. Her fingers paused over her mother's name, Camilla Reyes, circled in red. She bit her bottom lip, tears stinging her eyes but not falling. She didn't cry easily anymore. Not after what she'd been through. Not after the streets taught her what crying cost. There was a quiet knock. She slammed the notebook shut. "Yeah," she called out, voice steady. The door opened an inch. Jared leaned in. He looked different in casual clothes. Just a black hoodie and jeans. But there was still something distant in his expression, like he was never fully in the room. "Can I come in?" She nodded once. He stepped inside, looked around. "Wow, this is nicer than my apartment." "Thanks," Luna said. "Didn't decorate it, I just live here." Jared sat on the edge of her bed. He tapped his fingers against his knee. "So, are we going to talk about it?" "About what?" He looked at her. His eyes were softer than Alexander's, but they held the same shape, sharp around the edges, as if carrying something unresolved. "You don't trust him. I see it in your eyes." Luna let out a dry laugh. "And you do?" "Number. But I know what he's capable of. And you?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You're playing a dangerous game." She stared at him. "You think I don't know that?" He hesitated. "Then why are you doing it?" Luna looked down. For a long moment she didn't speak. Her fingers played with the chain around her neck, revealing the old silver locket. She opened it slowly, showing him the photo inside. Her parents, young and full of life. "This is why," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Jared leaned in, looking at the picture. "What happened to them?" She closed the locket, her voice turning colder. "They worked in one of Grayson's factories, the one that accidentally exploded." Jared's eyes widened slightly. "Project Kepler?" She froze. "You know about it?" He nodded slowly. "My mom used to work in finance. She kept records, files. I found them after she died." Luna's throat tightened. "She didn't just die, did she?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "She overdosed. Pills. After he left." Silence again. 2 broken kids, left behind by the same man. In different ways. Luna finally whispered. "We could take him down." Jared blinked. "You really think we can?" She pulled out the notebook. "I'm not thinking anymore, I'm planning." That night, while the rest of the house slept, Jared helped Luna break into Alexander's encrypted laptop. He had access to the server from his own email, a leftover login that hadn't been revoked. It gave them just enough time to download files, financial reports, legal documents, offshore transfers. Luna scrolled through them, rage building in her chest. Shell companies hiding money, bribes to government officials, suppressed inspection reports. "You see this?" she said, pointing to a folder titled Emergency Personnel Settlement. Jared leaned over her shoulder. "Wait. These are death certificates, signed payouts. He paid off families." She looked at him, her voice shaking with fury. "He paid to bury my parents." They stared at each other, the weight of it crashing between them. Then Jared whispered, "We leak this. It'll destroy him." Luna shook her head. "Not yet." He looked confused. "Why not?" "Because if we leak it now, the company will survive. He'll spin it. Blame it on someone else. That's what men like him do." Jared tilted his head. "So what's the plan?" She stood, gripping the locket in her hand. We make the world love him first. Worship him. Let him think he's untouchable, and then— Her eyes burned with quiet rage. We burn it all down. The next morning, Luna acted like nothing happened. She wore the pearl earrings Alexander had given her, smiled for photos at a charity book drive, and even spoke softly into the camera about how Mr. Grayson changed my life. Alexander stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder again. You're learning, he murmured in her ear afterward. Luna smiled up at him, her expression perfect. But her fingers were curled tightly around her locket, her nails digging into her palm. She was learning, yes, learning how to destroy him. The days blurred into routine. Smiles for cameras, carefully worded quotes, public handshakes, private silence. Luna was performing constantly, but beneath her surface, something was unraveling. Her thoughts drifted more and more to Noah, the sweet, sickly boy everyone believed was her younger brother. He was 11 now, wide-eyed, thin. His lungs were weak since birth. The chemo made it worse. He stayed in a special care home funded by Alexander's company. At least, that's what they thought. She visited him every Sunday, always alone, always off the books. "Lulu!" he shouted as soon as she walked into the room that day. His voice was faint but excited. "You brought snacks?" Luna smiled and held up a paper bag. "Of course I did. You think I'd show up empty-handed?" She sat beside him on the bed. His face was paler than last week, his dark curls thinner from the treatments, but his smile still lit up like a lantern in the dark. "Missed you," he said, mouth full of cookie. Luna brushed crumbs from his cheek. "I missed you more." His tiny fingers touched the locket around her neck. "That's Mommy and Daddy, right?" Luna nodded. "Do I look like them?" She hesitated. Then softly, "A little. But you have your own face. A kind one." Noah leaned against her shoulder. "I had a dream last night," he whispered, "that you weren't my sister. You were my mom." Her entire body went still. Noah looked up, blinking. "You okay?" She forced a smile. "I'm fine, baby, just tired." That night, Luna couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the lights below blink like restless stars. Her hand hovered over her phone, trembling slightly. Then she opened a file Jared had helped her decode. One of Alexander's lawyers had been tracing connections, building backup plans. DNA testing was part of it. Luna had found a match, not just to Noah, but to someone else. She scrolled again. There it was. Noah Reyes. Biological father, Vincent Harrow. She dropped the phone. Vincent Harrow, Alexander's biggest business rival, and the man who'd once tried to destroy him in court. Noah wasn't just her son. He was a weapon in a war she didn't even realize she was part of. Later that week, Jared found her on the rooftop. She hadn't been eating. Her cheekbones looked sharper, her eyes hollow. He walked over slowly. "You look like you haven't slept in days." She didn't look at him. Her voice came out quiet and cold. "I found Noah's paternity results." Jared blinked. "Wait, what?" Luna turned to him, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "He's not my brother. He's my son." Silence, a long one. Jared's mouth parted, but no words came out. She crossed her arms. "I was 16, living in a shelter. There was a man who offered me food and warmth. I thought he cared." Jared's fists clenched. "I never told anyone. I was afraid they'd take him away. So I said he was my brother." She stared into the night. "And now he's tied to all of this. Harrow, Alexander, me." Jared stepped closer, voice gentle. "You didn't do anything wrong." She laughed bitterly. "Didn't I? I'm using a child for revenge. My child." "You're trying to protect him," Jared said. "Don't twist that." She turned toward him, her face full of pain. He deserves better. Then softer. So do you. Their eyes locked. Something passed between them. Fragile, human. A moment of understanding neither of them expected. The following weekend, Alexander announced a private gala, bigger than any he'd done before. Press investors, politicians. Luna was the centerpiece. She's the soul of our new charity branch, he told reporters. Proof that second chances work. Luna smiled through it, wore the dress he picked, held his arm like a daughter would. But inside, something in her had started to snap. That night, she stood by the mirror before the gala, staring at her own reflection. She didn't recognize the girl staring back. She looked like a doll, beautiful, polished, empty. Then she heard the knock, Jared again. He stepped in, holding a folder. "I think you should see this," he said. Inside were transcripts, emails between Harrow's legal team and someone inside Alexander's company. Luna flipped through them. "You think Harrow knows about Noah?" she asked. Jared nodded. "He might have known all along. This might have been his plan too." Her voice turned sharp. "So I'm just a pawn." "Maybe," Jared said quietly. "But pawns can kill kings." She looked up at him. The dress she wore shimmered in the light, but her eyes were dark. "Let's play then." As the gala roared downstairs, Luna stood by Alexander's side again, accepting fake praise, shallow compliments. She smiled when the cameras clicked. She posed for photos. But inside her head, the plan was forming. Jared in her corner, the files backed up, the truth buried in hard drives and locket chains. And as she raised her glass that night, her eyes met Alexander's. He smiled at her, proud. She smiled back, but only she knew what was coming. Only she knew that the house of cards was starting to shake. And soon, it would all come crashing down. The magazine cover hit shelves everywhere. From street to spotlight, the girl who stole America's heart, with Luna front and center. Her soft smile, the modest dress, a small canvas clutched in her hand, splashed with color and hope. Inside the article, Alexander was quoted saying, "Luna reminded me that no matter how far you've come, you're only as good as the lives you lift up. Lies, but beautiful ones." Luna sat in the back seat of the limousine, the article folded on her lap. Her fingertips ran over the photo absently. She looked at her own smile like a stranger might, a perfect illusion painted over old scars. She turned to Jared, seated beside her, phone in hand. "You read it yet?" she asked. He snorted. "Only every fake word," Luna raised an eyebrow. "You jealous I'm more photogenic?" Jared didn't smile. He'd become quieter lately, more serious. "Just remember," he muttered, "the higher you climb, the longer the fall." Luna leaned her head against the window, watching the city blur past. "Then I'll make sure I drag him down with me." Alexander was glowing with pride, or something that looked like it. The gala was a smashing success. Donations poured in. News outlets praised his empathy campaign as a new model of corporate responsibility. Investors who once pulled away were back at the table. And the crown jewel? Luna. She painted, spoke, smiled, thanked everyone for changing her life. She was artful, genuine where she needed to be, cool and distant where it counted. The public adored her. Behind closed doors, Alexander's admiration became something sharper. "You're a miracle, you know," he said one evening after a charity dinner. Luna sat across from him, a silk shawl around her shoulders. She sipped from her glass, slowly, not meeting his eyes. "I'm a product," she said flatly. He chuckled. "You're clever, always have a punchline ready." His expression softened slightly, the rare kind of softness that made Luna tense up. "You remind me of someone," he said. "My daughter when she was little." Luna looked up. "You mean the one you never talk about?" His jaw twitched. "She lives with her mother," he said curtly. "That's better for her. Does she know who you really are? Alexander stared at her, something unreadable in his eyes. No one does, he said quietly. For a moment, it almost sounded like guilt. Luna leaned in, voice like a blade wrapped in silk. Maybe one day she will. In the weeks that followed, Luna's world bloomed. A solo art show at a youth center, a televised speech on resilience, a sponsored campaign for homeless teen rehabilitation programs. Alexander's team managed it all, carefully manicured, beautifully curated. And Luna? She played her role so well, sometimes she almost believed it. But at night, she was still the girl clutching a locket soaked in memory and ash. She was still visiting Noah in secret, still exchanging encrypted files with Jared, still watching, recording, planning. One morning, while filming a segment for a breakfast show, the host leaned forward and asked her, "Do you believe people can change?" Luna's face didn't flinch, but something in her eyes flickered. "Yes," she said softly, "but not without consequences." The host laughed like it was profound. Luna smiled sweetly. Inside, she wanted to scream. Later that day, she stood in the gallery room Alexander had converted for her. A studio full of light, white walls, expensive brushes, everything she never had growing up. But the canvas in front of her was empty. She couldn't paint. Not today. Not with the truth crawling under her skin. Jared walked in, his footsteps quiet. "I checked the files again," he said. "There's something weird." Luna turned slowly. "Weird how?" He held up a printed document. "There are sealed agreements between Alexander and Harrow's investment wing. Shell companies, old ones." Luna stared. "You think they were working together?" Jared nodded. "At some point, yeah, before Harrow tried to sue him. Maybe Harrow's not just a rival. Maybe he's part of the cover-up." Luna clenched her jaw. "That means Noah is more than leverage. He's evidence." Jared stepped closer, voice low. "We need to be careful. If Harrow finds out you've connected the dots, he'll come after me." Luna stepped back, her breathing shallow. "I've been thinking about pulling out," she said suddenly. "Stopping everything." Jared blinked. "What?" "Maybe Noah and I can disappear. Start over." "You think running will protect him?" "No," she whispered, "but revenge might destroy him." He looked at her. Really looked. "You're not like him, Luna. You care. That's what makes you dangerous." For a moment, they stood in silence. Then Luna turned back to the blank canvas. She dipped her brush in red and made the first stroke. That night, Alexander stood outside her studio door, watching her paint through the glass. She looked radiant under the lights, poised, calm. He didn't see the storm in her hands, didn't hear the voices in her head, didn't know the fire was already burning. And when he walked away, satisfied that he'd made her into something golden, Luna whispered to the shadows, "The perfect daughter's almost ready." It started with a name in a spreadsheet. Everence Logistics. Buried deep in an encrypted folder, Jared decrypted late one night. It was one of dozens of shell corporations tied to payouts, settlements, and something listed simply as incident response. Luna sat across from him at the long kitchen island in Alexander's penthouse. The marble beneath her palms was cold, like everything else in that place. Pristine but lifeless. "Everence," she repeated. "That's not one of Alexander's companies, is it?" Jared shook his head. "It was owned by Harrow Industries, at least on paper. But 5 months before the factory fire, Grayson Tech wired them $500,000. No description." Luna leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Why pay your enemy's company?" "Unless," Jared said. They weren't enemies yet. She felt her stomach tighten. Maybe the fire wasn't a result of rivalry. Maybe it was a partnership gone bad. Or worse. A planned erasure. The next morning, Luna sat across from Alexander at breakfast. He was unusually cheerful, spreading raspberry preserves over a croissant like a man with nothing to hide. "You're glowing today," he said, looking over his newspaper. "Maybe it's the sugar," she replied, sipping tea. He folded the paper, smirking. "Or maybe it's success. You've become something rare, real." Luna's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I think I'm just good at pretending," Alexander chuckled. "Well, pretend a little longer. We're invited to Harrow's gala next week. Big industry mixer." Luna's teacup froze midair. "Harrow?" she asked carefully. Alexander nodded, not noticing the tension in her voice. "Old dog, still trying to be king of the mountain. Wants to meet my miracle daughter." The word miracle made her stomach churn. She forced a nod. "I'll be ready." But inside, she was already planning every word she'd say to the man who funded her nightmares. That evening, she pulled Jared aside. "We need to talk to Harrow." Jared's expression darkened. "That's risky. He doesn't know about Noah yet. He might suspect something. Or worse, he's using Alexander to get to me." "Why would he care about you?" Luna looked away. "Because he's my son's father." Jared stepped back like she'd slapped him. "What?" "I didn't know until recently," she said. "Alexander's team ran DNA when they tried to get Noah treatment. They never told me, but I hacked the database." She reached into her coat and pulled out a folder. Inside were photos, medical records, a birth certificate with a false father's name, and one DNA match: Sebastian Harrow. Jared ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "Jesus, Luna. I was 17. I didn't even remember the guy until I saw him on a screen. He came to the shelter once, made a speech, took pictures with us, bought us pizza." Her voice broke slightly. "He must have thought I was just another girl to forget." Jared sat down, stunned. "This changes everything," Luna nodded. "Now I'm not just some girl who lost her parents in that fire. I'm the mother of the one person who could destroy both their empires." The gala came faster than she expected. Her dress was custom-made. Midnight blue, off the shoulder. Alexander's gift. As he adjusted her necklace before they left, she caught a glimpse of something in his eyes. Pride? Possession? She couldn't tell. "You'll be the most beautiful one there," he said softly. Luna forced a smile. "Is that all I need to be?" He paused, fingers brushing her collarbone. "No," he said. "Just don't let them see too much." "Of me?" "Of your anger." She stiffened, but said nothing. The ballroom was a sea of power and pretense. Crystal chandeliers, laughter that sounded hollow, cameras flashing like lightning. Harrow was easy to spot. Tall, silver-haired, expensive smile. He approached Alexander like an old friend, with a knife behind his back. "Grayson," he drawled, "you brought your star." Luna extended her hand. His grip was firm, familiar. "I've been following your journey, young lady," Harrow said. "Impressive transformation." Luna tilted her head, searching his face. "Funny," she said. "I don't remember you following anyone but yourself." He raised an eyebrow. Sharp tongue. "I grew up around broken glass," Alexander laughed, not catching the current between them. "You two sound like you've met before." Luna smiled sweetly. "Only in my nightmares." Later, on the balcony, Harrow found her alone. The city glowed behind him. "You're playing a dangerous game, Luna," he said. She didn't flinch. "You remember me, don't you?" His smile faltered. "For a minute," he said. "It was a long time ago." "You used me," she said flatly. "And now you want to use my son." Harrow leaned against the railing. "You're angry. I get it. But this isn't about the past. It's about legacy. That boy has power in his blood. Mine and yours. He's not a weapon. No, Harrow said. He's a key. And keys open doors you can't even imagine. She turned to face him fully, voice shaking. I will burn every door before I let either of you take him. He smirked. You sound just like your mother. Luna froze. What? She tried to blackmail me, he said. Her and your father, they wanted hush money. Threatened to go to the press about Everence. About the fire risks. I told Alexander to handle it. Luna's breath caught. You're lying. Maybe, Harrow said. But you'll never prove it. And by the time you try, the boy will be mine. She slapped him. Hard. His cheek reddened, but he didn't retaliate. Careful, he whispered. You're not the only one who knows how to pretend. Then he turned and walked back inside. That night, Luna didn't sleep. She stood in front of her studio mirror, watching herself. Not the dress, not the makeup. Just her eyes. Haunted. She opened her locket, stared at the faded photo. Her parents' faces, smudged by time, burned into her memory. I will finish what you started, she whispered. Then she picked up her brush and painted the man she hated most, Sebastian Harrow, in flames. Rain lashed the windows like it had something to prove. Luna sat on the edge of Jared's bed, knees pulled to her chest, the room dimly lit by a single desk lamp. Jared was silent, hunched over his laptop, the glow highlighting the bags under his eyes and the growing stubble along his jaw. You haven't slept, she said softly. He didn't look up. Didn't want to. A bottle of whiskey sat open beside the keyboard, untouched but threatening. Luna's gaze lingered on it. You're slipping. He finally met her eyes. Bloodshot, weary, ashamed. I know. Luna stood and gently took the glass from his desk, pouring the contents into the sink across the room. You promised, she said. I also promised I wouldn't fall in love with someone like you, Jared muttered. The words hung between them, sharp and fragile. Luna's expression softened, but only for a second. Someone like me? He turned toward her, desperation creeping into his voice. You walk into fire like you're immune. You lie better than my father, and still, I can't stop hoping you'll let me in. She exhaled through her nose, stepped closer, and cupped his face with her hands. I'm not asking you to love me, Jared. I'm asking you to survive this, with me. He nodded slowly, eyes closing. And then he kissed her. It wasn't a clean kiss. It was messy, desperate, hungry with pain and longing. But it was real. Luna pulled back, forehead pressed to his. We don't get to break, she whispered. Not yet. The next morning, Luna visited an old friend, Cleo, a former investigative journalist turned whistleblower advocate. Mid-30s, sharp-eyed, with wild curls and a mouth that never missed. You're insane, Cleo said as she flipped through the files Luna laid on her kitchen table. You want me to leak tax fraud, wire transfers, and tie Harrow to child exploitation? Luna sipped cheap coffee from a chipped mug. Yes. Do you realize who you're up against? I'm already in the ring. Cleo sat back, eyes scanning Luna's face. You're not just looking for justice. No, Luna admitted. I want them to choke on their lies. Cleo tapped a finger on the folder. Then we do this smart, quiet. We don't leak all at once, we drip it. One scandal at a time. Let them panic. Luna's lips curved upward. Like blood in the water. Back at the Grayson penthouse, Alexander was pacing his office, fuming at the headlines. Tax anomalies at Grayson Tech raise eyebrows. Insider hints at illegal settlements in factory fire aftermath. He slammed his fist on the table. Find out who's leaking, he barked into the phone, and shut it down. Luna entered quietly, arms crossed. You okay? She asked innocently. Alexander turned, his anger instantly replaced by his performative calm. Just politics, sharks circling. Maybe they smell rot. He raised an eyebrow. She smiled sweetly. I meant old rivals. Harrow, maybe. Alexander poured himself a drink. He always wanted my crown. Now he's hiding behind his son. Luna paused. His son? Alexander gave her a sideways glance. Rumor is he fathered a child with some nobody years ago, kept it quiet. He's been scrambling ever since. Luna forced her hand not to tremble. Must be hard, she said, voice steady. Lying for that long. Alexander studied her closely. You believe everyone's hiding something, don't you? Isn't that why you adopted me? To hide your own sins? His jaw twitched, and for the first time, he didn't deny it. That night, Luna met Jared near the old docks. He looked rough, hood up, eyes darting, but alive. I've been watching Harrow's private yacht, he said. He's smuggling something, or someone. Regular late-night pickups, no records. Trafficking, Luna asked, her voice sharp. Or bribes. I can't get close. Luna handed him a flash drive. Use this. It'll trace his encrypted comms. He looked at her, reluctant. I'm not a spy, Luna. I'm not like you. She stepped closer, placing the drive in his hand. You are now. Jared closed his fist around it. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Alexander had a visitor. A pale, silent boy with messy curls and dark eyes, Noah. He was escorted in by a private driver. The boy didn't speak, just handed Alexander a note written in Luna's sharp handwriting. Let him stay the night. Consider it a test of your humanity. Alexander knelt, leveling with the child. You must be Noah. No response. Alexander sighed. You look like her. Still silence. That night, Alexander tucked the boy into one of the guest rooms, awkwardly, almost comically. He didn't know how to talk to children, or people, but as he stood at the door, watching Noah fall asleep, hugging a tattered stuffed fox, something shifted in him. A weight he didn't recognize. Guilt? Hope? He didn't know yet. The next morning, Luna arrived early. She found Alexander making pancakes in a pristine designer kitchen that had never been used. Don't laugh, he warned. She smirked. You cook? For him, I tried. He looked sheepish. He liked them, Alexander added. I think. Luna's smile faded slowly. You're not a monster, she said softly. Not all the time. Alexander turned, meeting her eyes. Number just enough to matter. They stood there for a long moment, two broken people pretending to be whole. Then Luna whispered, He's your second chance. Is he yours? Alexander asked. Luna looked away. I don't know yet. That evening, Luna received a text from Jared. One line. He knows. Meet me now. She rushed to the alley behind an old church, heart pounding. Jared was waiting, bruised and shaking. He had me followed, he said. Harrow's men. They caught me planting the tracker, beat me and let me go as a warning. Luna's eyes flared with fury. You're hurt. I'm alive, Jared said. But we're running out of time. Harrow's planning something big. A buyout. He's coming for everything. Luna looked up at the stars. They can take everything, she said, except the truth. Jared touched her hand. And what if the truth kills us? She squeezed his fingers. Then we die honest. The gala was being held at the heart of the city, a marble-floored exhibition hall adorned with towering white roses. 1,000 lights glittering overhead, like stars, frozen in crystal. Luna stood in front of the vanity, adjusting the high neckline of her silk gown. It was deep crimson, hugging her curves with a quiet authority. Her dark hair was swept into a clean updo, a few strands loose around her face on purpose. No jewelry, no distractions. Tonight, she didn't want to dazzle. She wanted to cut. Alexander stepped into the room behind her, fixing his cufflinks in the mirror's reflection. "You look like war," Luna smiled faintly. "I thought I looked like your perfect daughter." "You are," he said. "Tonight, everyone will see that." She turned toward him slowly. "Even your enemies," he shrugged. "Especially them." As they left the room together, Luna could feel her pulse humming in her ears like a warning. Her time was almost up. The gala was a blur of champagne and fake laughter. Photographers flashed, donors clinked glasses. Every conversation felt like a performance, every smile a transaction. Luna played her part well, poised, graceful, intelligent. "You're the reason I still believe in this generation," an older woman gushed, squeezing her hand. Luna smiled. "Thank you. I'm just trying to give back." Behind her, Alexander beamed like a proud father. His hand rested gently on her back, guiding her through the crowd like a man showing off a prize. But he didn't notice the tiny mic sewn into Luna's clutch, or the quiet nod she gave to Jared across the room. Jared, dressed in a borrowed tux, stood by the charity auction table, checking his watch and texting furiously. "Live in 2 minutes. Be ready." At the center of the event was a giant painting, Luna's own portrait of Alexander, regal and cold, bathed in ice-blue tones. It was supposed to be the highlight of the night, auctioned to raise funds for underprivileged youth. But Luna had other plans. As the spotlight hit the stage, the host's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to present the final piece of the evening. A gift from Miss Luna, painted by her own hand. A tribute to the man who gave her a new life." Applause thundered. All eyes turned to Luna as she stepped up. She took the mic with steady hands. "Thank you," she began, her voice calm. "I painted this when I believed that a man who saves you must be a hero." A few chuckles from the crowd. "I don't believe that anymore." Silence fell like glass shattering. "I painted this portrait as a daughter," she continued. "But tonight, I burn it as a witness." Gasps echoed across the hall. Before anyone could stop her, Luna stepped forward, pulled a silver lighter from her clutch, and held it to the bottom corner of the canvas. Flames licked the edge. Panic rippled. Security froze. Alexander surged forward. "Luna! What the hell are you doing?" She turned the mic back on, her eyes locked with his. "Your philanthropy is a lie," she said, voice rising. "The man who saved me once let others like me burn. My parents, my real parents, died in a fire at one of his factories, a fire that he covered up." The canvas was now roaring with fire behind her, a twisted reflection of the truth unraveling in real time. "He adopted me for a photo op," she said. "To fix his image, not to fix me." Jared stood by the doors, already uploading the live stream. The crowd was in chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Board members stormed out. Alexander's face was pale and stone-like. He looked at her, not as a daughter, but as a threat. "You ungrateful little," he started. Luna cut him off. "You gave me a roof," she said, "and I gave you a mask. Now I'm taking it back." The video hit the internet like a grenade. Millions watched the fire consume the painting. Millions more watched Alexander's frozen expression as Luna told the world who he really was. The fallout was instant. Grayson Tech's stock dropped 11% overnight. Investors pulled out. A congressional committee announced an inquiry into his offshore accounts. Alexander locked himself in his study, curtains drawn, TV muted, but flashing headlines over and over. Grayson exposed by adopted daughter. Tech empire crumbles under scandal. Who is Luna, really? He stared at a photograph on his desk. A candid shot of Luna laughing in the garden months ago. She looked free, alive, innocent. Had she ever really been that girl? Or had she always been the match he handed to the flame? Luna disappeared for 3 days after the gala. No calls, no messages. Jared finally found her on the roof of their old shelter, legs dangling off the ledge. "You don't have to be a ghost," he said, approaching quietly. She didn't turn around. "I set the fire," she said flatly. "I started everything, I just didn't expect it to burn this fast." Jared sat beside her. "He deserved it," he said. "But you didn't deserve what came with it." Luna looked at him, eyes hollow. "Noah saw it. The video, he thinks I'm a liar." "You did it for him," Jared said gently. "I did it for me." Jared nodded. "That's okay too." They sat in silence for a while. Then Luna said, "It's only the beginning, you know. I still have the files. The ones about the offshore accounts. The whistleblower tapes." Jared turned to her. "Then, what are you waiting for?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, the wind pulling her hair loose. "Alexander Grayson created a monster," she said. She turned to Jared, eyes burning. "And now I'm going to show him what it means to live with one." The morning after, the gala felt like the end of the world. Luna stood by the window of a run-down motel room, the sunlight filtering through a dusty curtain, warming her face. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. The image of the burning painting still danced behind her eyelids every time she blinked. Her hand still smelled faintly of smoke. On the motel bed, a stack of hard drives and file folders sat like weapons on a battlefield. Jared was asleep on the floor, a hoodie pulled over his face, a laptop open beside him. His breathing was uneven. He'd had a nightmare earlier. Called out for his mother. Luna didn't wake him. Instead, she picked up a worn envelope from the nightstand. Inside were copies of the original incident report, the fire at the textile factory in Dhaka. Her parents' names were highlighted, circled in red ink. Casualties: 17 confirmed. Cause: electrical wiring failure. Investigation closed. But she had the whistleblower tapes now. Her hands tightened on the paper. The factory wasn't an accident. It was the cost of profit. And Alexander knew. He always knew. Meanwhile, inside his penthouse, Alexander Grayson watched the world turn its back on him. The living room was dark, curtains drawn. The news played on mute. Headline after headline flashing like a trial, with no judge, no jury. Just the world's eyes pointing fingers. Adopted daughter reveals tech mogul's past crimes. Luna, from street to saboteur. Senate committee demands testimony. He turned the TV off. Then turned it back on, off again. "Sir," came the voice of his assistant, his former assistant. "The board is demanding your resignation. They're threatening a vote if you don't step down voluntarily." Alexander stared out the window. "Let them. They're calling for a full audit. The files Luna leaked." "She doesn't have everything," he interrupted, his voice icy. "She thinks she's ahead. She's not." A pause. "And your wife's lawyer called. She's filing for custody of Scarlett." Alexander didn't respond. The line went dead. He sat down slowly, his face a mask of something terrifyingly blank. A storm was coming. But this time, he was no longer holding the umbrella. Later that night, Luna met with a woman named Elena, a former factory worker who'd survived the fire, but disappeared shortly after. They sat across from each other in the back room of a bakery, still open past midnight. Elena's skin was marked with old burn scars. Her hands trembled slightly as she pushed a USB across the table. "He paid us to stay quiet," she said softly. "After the fire, his lawyers came and made us sign papers we didn't even understand. Then they moved us, threatened us if we spoke." Luna reached for the USB slowly. "This has video?" she asked. Elena nodded. "Of the wiring, of the orders to keep the factory open, despite the warnings." Luna swallowed the lump in her throat. Why now? Elena's voice cracked. Because you're the only one who didn't run. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Luna whispered, Thank you. She left the bakery that night with more than evidence. She left with purpose. 2 days later, Jared uploaded a new video. No more interviews, no more soft storytelling. Just cold, factual truth. The factory fire, the suppressed warnings, the orders to stay open, the bribes, screenshots, timestamps, voice memos from Alexander's head of operations, even a redacted email from Alexander himself. Delay closure. Cost of incident, cheaper than relocation. The internet caught fire. Protests broke out outside Grayson HQ. Stocks tanked another 18%. Anonymous hackers defaced Alexander's company homepage with a looping video of the burning factory and the words, "You built your empire on ashes." Inside the chaos, Luna remained eerily calm. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. This wasn't victory. It was just demolition. But Alexander wasn't done. He called in favors, paid off officials, silenced a few media houses. And most chilling of all, he hired someone. Luna noticed it first when she caught a man following her on the subway. Then a black car parked outside the motel for 2 straight nights. No one ever got out. Jared insisted on moving again. "This isn't worth dying over," he snapped, eyes wild. Luna just stared at him, voice low. "You think he won't come for you too? You're his son. That makes you dangerous." Jared looked away. "He doesn't even know I exist." She stepped closer. "He does now." In the motel that night, Luna sat on the edge of the bed, with her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee. Jared paced behind her, running both hands through his hair. "I'm not built for this," he muttered. "You know I take pills just to sleep." Luna didn't flinch. "I know." He turned sharply. "Then why are you dragging me deeper?" "Because you said you wanted to help," she said calmly. "Help, not get killed." Her voice dropped. "Then leave." The words hung in the air like gunfire. Jared stared at her, wounded. "You really don't care, do you?" Luna met his eyes. "I do. That's why I'm not asking again." He stormed out. Luna sat alone, coffee cold, the silence heavier than guilt. She reached for her phone. Noah. 2 missed calls. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She didn't call back. Instead, she stared at the phone until the screen went black. Across the city, in a dim warehouse office, Alexander reviewed the surveillance photos on a table. Luna crossing a street. Jared meeting with a reporter. Elena handing over a flash drive. He stared at the images with hollow eyes. His assistant spoke softly. "Do you want them taken care of?" Alexander didn't answer at first. Then he looked up, his voice dead cold. "Start with Jared." The motel room was quiet. Too quiet. Luna sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, back pressed against the peeling wallpaper. She hadn't heard from Jared in 12 hours. Her mind flashed back to their last conversation. His angry eyes, the way his voice cracked when he shouted at her. "I'm not built for this." She hadn't meant to be cruel. She was just afraid. Afraid he'd break under the pressure. Afraid he'd get himself killed. Or worse, turn on her. Now the silence was driving her mad. She checked her phone again. Still nothing. Her breath quickened. Something was wrong. Then a knock. She froze. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Luna crept toward the door, heart pounding in her ears. She looked through the peephole. It wasn't Jared. It was a woman. Mid-30s. Black blazer, calm face, sharp eyes. Luna didn't open the door. The woman slipped a card under it and walked away without a word. Luna waited a beat, then picked it up. "Celia Harper, FBI, Special Investigations." On the back. "We need to talk before he finds you." Her hand trembled slightly. She'd expected retaliation, but Not this. Jared was nowhere. Luna tried his burner phone. No answer. She called Noah next. After 2 rings, his tired voice answered. Luna, is Jared with you? Number, I haven't seen him since... He paused. Wait, why? Her voice cracked. He's missing. Noah's voice hardened. I'll help you find him. Luna sat down on the bed, staring at the wall. Her thoughts raced, overlapping each other like crashing waves. What if Alexander already made a move? What if Jared's gone? But no, he wouldn't just vanish. Not without fighting back. Unless he never had the chance. The next morning, Luna met Special Agent Harper in a quiet diner on the edge of the city. Harper ordered black coffee and spoke without preamble. We've been monitoring Alexander Grayson for years. Tax fraud, offshore laundering, labor violations. Luna sat stiffly. Then why haven't you done anything? Harper didn't blink. Because the people he owns wear suits and work in buildings that reach the clouds. We needed someone like you to shake the foundation. Luna leaned forward, cautious. Why now? Harper sipped her coffee. Because you made him bleed. And wounded animals get desperate. Luna stared. You think he took Jared? Harper nodded. Or had him taken. Either way, your friend is in serious danger. Luna's voice lowered. So help me. Harper didn't answer immediately. Then, she slid a folder across the table. Inside, photos of a shipping container, its interior rigged with surveillance gear and chains. This is how he punishes betrayal, Harper said softly. We found this after an anonymous tip. It's on a private property listed under one of Grayson's shell companies. Luna's stomach turned. Where? Portside, docks. But we can't move without cause. I'll get you cause, Luna said quietly, her eyes like steel. Harper frowned. What are you planning? Luna didn't answer. She was already on her feet. Later that day, Luna slipped through the industrial maze of Portside. Her hoodie was pulled low, her steps careful. The sea breeze carried the scent of rust and salt and rot. She followed the directions Harper had given her. Cranes loomed above like skeletons of giants. The sound of creaking metal echoed with each step. Finally, she found it. A container marked L89. She approached slowly. Then, a noise, a cough, a voice. Her heart stopped. Hello, she whispered. No answer. She pressed her ear to the door. Then, bang, a loud thud from inside. Luna leapt back, eyes wide. Jared! Another thud, muffled. She ran to the side, found the latch and yanked with all her strength. It didn't budge. She pulled again, harder. Her fingers bled. Then, a voice behind her. I wouldn't do that if I were you. She spun. A man stepped from the shadows. Late 40s, scar across his lip, greasy smile. You're messing with things you don't understand, sweetheart. Luna backed away. Where's Jared? The man shrugged. Boss said to scare you off, not kill you. He pulled a baton from his coat. But accidents happen. Luna reached into her pocket. Her fingers wrapped around a small pepper spray canister. As the man lunged, she sprayed directly into his eyes. He screamed, dropping the baton. Luna grabbed it and swung, crack, the sound of bone against metal. He dropped. She fumbled with the latch again. This time, it clicked. The door creaked open. Inside, Jared lay on the floor, bound, bruised, but alive. Luna, he rasped. She rushed in, tears springing to her eyes. I got you, she whispered. I've got you. Back at Harper's safe house, Luna sat by Jared's bedside. He was unconscious, but breathing steady. A nurse dabbed his wounds gently. Harper stood nearby. You're lucky, she said. Any longer in that container? Luna didn't look at her, just stared at Jared. I need to end this, she said flatly. Harper raised a brow. And how? I'll go to Alexander, Luna said. Face to face, let him see what he created. Harper hesitated. That's a bad idea. Luna's eyes were cold. It's the only one left. That night she dressed simply. Black jeans, leather jacket, hair tied back. No makeup, no armor. Just rage and resolve. She walked alone into Grayson Tower. Security tried to stop her. She held up a document, federal immunity papers signed by Harper. They hesitated, then stepped aside. The elevator ride to the top felt like an execution. When the doors opened, Alexander was already waiting. He looked older, more worn, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Luna," he said softly, "you came back." She stepped into the room. "You had Jared kidnapped." He didn't deny it. "I warned you what would happen if you betrayed me," he said quietly. "You never loved me," Luna whispered. "I was just a PR tool, a project." His jaw tightened. "I gave you everything." "You gave me nightmares." They stood in silence. Then Luna reached into her jacket and pulled out the locket, the one with her parents' photo. She placed it on the table. "My parents died because of your greed. Jared almost died because of your fear. You destroyed lives just to stay rich." Alexander stared at the locket. "I was trying to protect what I built," he said finally. "You built it on ashes," Luna said. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him alone in his glass tower, with only ghosts for company. The internet broke before sunrise. It started with a single video, a shaky recording from a burner phone, leaked by a masked whistleblower. The caption was simple: "Grayson Truths, what they tried to bury." It opened with Jared's voice, raw and shaken. "This is what he did to me. This is what he does to all of us." A quick montage followed. Secret recordings, confidential documents, audio clips, voicemails, everything Luna and Jared had uncovered. And finally, Luna herself appeared on screen, standing in front of a painting she'd once made of Alexander, now slashed and charred. Her voice calm but blistering. "He adopted me for a headline. He said I was a prop. But I remembered everything. My parents died in a factory fire under his name. My brother was my son. I was assaulted, left to rot on the street while he smiled on magazine covers. This isn't just revenge. This is justice. And if I go down for this, I'll go down swinging." By noon, the video had over 47 million views. By 4 p.m., Grayson Corp stocks nosedived. Board members resigned. The press camped outside his penthouse. And by nightfall, Alexander Grayson was no longer the predator. He was prey. Inside the penthouse, Alexander stood in front of the darkened, floor-to-ceiling windows, phone in hand. He didn't move, didn't speak. Behind him, his wife, Marissa, packed the last of her bags in silence. Their daughter, Emily, sat on the couch clutching a stuffed bunny, her small eyes watching her father. Marissa paused at the door. "You could have told me," she said softly. "About Luna, about Jared, about the fires." Alexander finally turned. His face was pale, hollow. "I did what I had to," he said. Marissa shook her head. "No, you did what you wanted. And now everyone's paying the price." Emily looked up at him. "Daddy," she whispered. He bent down, touched her cheek, but the girl flinched away. Alexander froze. And just like that, they were gone. At a small, private hospital just outside the city, Jared was recovering. He sat on the bed, flipping through channels, all of them talking about his father. A knock came, then Luna stepped in. She looked tired, her eyes darker than before. Her voice was quiet. "Hey," Jared turned off the TV. "You did it?" Luna shrugged. "We did it." He looked away. "It doesn't feel good," he muttered. She nodded slowly. "Number it doesn't." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jared asked, "What now?" Luna pulled out a small notebook, tossed it onto the bed. He flipped it open. Inside, sketches of a building, designs, scribbled notes. "What is this?" "A shelter," Luna said. For kids like me, like us. Jared looked up. You really want to build something. I don't want to just destroy anymore, she whispered. I want to create. I need to. He nodded, slow. Then, after a pause, can I help? She smiled. Just a little. Only if you don't cry every time a hammer hits your thumb, he grinned. No promises. Later that night, Luna walked alone through an alley she used to sleep in. The pavement was wet, the sky above choked with clouds. At the far end, a shape sat hunched beneath a broken street lamp. She froze. Alexander. His designer coat was soaked through. His hands shook from the cold. He looked up when he saw her. Luna, he croaked, her eyes narrowed. Why are you here? I lost everything. She didn't move. I have nowhere left to go, he added. No one left to call. Silence stretched between them. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She laid it gently beside him. He looked down. The locket, her parents'. The last piece of the past that mattered. He picked it up with trembling fingers. I thought you'd burn this, he whispered. I almost did, Luna replied. But I think I wanted you to remember them. Really remember. He looked up, eyes glassy. You wanted to save the world. Instead, you destroyed mine. Luna's voice cracked. You destroyed it first. She turned and walked away. But this time, he didn't stop her, and she didn't look back. The news raged for weeks. Investigations, lawsuits, protesters outside Grayson's remaining offices. Anonymous donations poured into Luna's new foundation, Ashes to Art. The shelter opened 3 months later. Simple, warm, full of color. Kids laughed in the courtyard. Music played softly through the halls. And every morning, like clockwork, the front gate creaked open. As Alexander Grayson arrived quietly, carrying crates, fixing leaky pipes, scrubbing graffiti off the walls, no one knew who he was. Just the old man with tired eyes and a crooked back. Luna saw him sometimes, watched him work. She never approached, and he never asked her to. But on the wall of the art room hung a portrait. A young girl with ash on her cheeks, standing in flames, holding a locket close to her chest. Below it, a small plaque. The fire didn't break her, it forged her. 3 days after the shelter opened, Luna received a plain white envelope. No return address, no stamp. Inside, a single photograph. Black and white, blurry. A group of workers standing outside a dilapidated factory. One of them, unmistakably her mother. And behind her, 2 faces circled in red. One of them was Alexander. The other was a man she didn't recognize, yet. Beneath the photo, a typed note. He wasn't the only one who ruined your life. Come alone. An address was scrawled on the back. The location was a half-collapsed warehouse in the city's industrial district. Same place where the fire happened years ago. The smell of smoke still lived in the walls. Luna walked inside cautiously, her boots echoing across the scorched floor. Dust floated in the shafts of light cutting through broken windows. She wasn't alone. 3 people stood waiting. An older woman with a limp and a burn scar along her neck. A man with faded tattoos across both arms. And a third figure, tall, expensive coat, silver hair slicked back. Luna stopped in her tracks. The man stepped forward. I remember your mother, he said, voice like gravel. Brave, too brave. Luna stared. Who are you? He smiled faintly. The man who built the factory, and possibly your father. Her stomach twisted. You're Roman Vale, she said. Alexander's biggest rival. He nodded. And your mother's biggest regret. The woman with the scar spoke then. We were survivors. Of your revenge. Luna turned to her, stunned. You think you're a hero, the woman snapped. But your leaks destroyed our chance at a settlement. Some of us waited years for justice, and now it's gone. The tattooed man added, "We know the truth. That boy, he's your son, not your brother. You lied, just like the people you hate." Luna's fists clenched. "What do you want?" The older woman tossed a file at her feet. "Sign this. Pay us out. Or we tell the world your little shelter is built on secrets." Roman Vale stood back, watching. No help. No mercy. "You used me," she whispered. He raised an eyebrow. "You let yourself be used. Because deep down, you are your father's daughter. Whether it's me or him." She didn't flinch. "I'm not like either of you." Roman smiled. "Then prove it." That night, Luna called Jared. Her voice trembled. "They're right. I burned everything down and I didn't look back." Jared didn't judge. He just said, "You can't fix everything." "But you can start with one thing," Luna asked. "Even if it hurts?" He replied, "Especially if it hurts." A week later, Luna stood in front of a press crowd, with cameras flashing in every direction. She stepped up to the mic. No makeup, no script, her voice steady. "I wasn't honest. About who I am. About who my son is. I tried to take down a monster and, in the process, I became one. But I believe in truth. And I believe in rebuilding. So today, I'm transferring full ownership of Ashes to Art to a survivor-led board. I will no longer be in charge. But I will always be here, volunteering, working, listening. Because no child should grow up in flames. Not like I did. Not like my son almost did." There was silence. Then, applause. Not from everyone, but from some. And it was enough. Later, back at the shelter, Luna watched her son play with crayons in the corner. He was drawing a house, warm, simple, safe. He looked up. "Can I hang this on the wall?" She smiled softly. "Of course." As he ran to tape it beside the other kids' drawings, a shadow appeared in the doorway. Alexander, still in his worn jacket, hands rough from weeks of work. She didn't move toward him, but she didn't turn away either. He cleared his throat. "I heard what you did," he said. "At the press conference." She nodded. He added, "It was brave." She met his eyes for the first time in weeks. "So was staying here," she said. "You could have disappeared." He gave a dry smile. "I did disappear. Just not the way I thought I would." They stood in silence. Then Luna asked, "Do you still have the locket?" He reached into his coat, pulled it out, held it in his palm like it still burned. She stepped forward slowly and closed his fingers around it. "I think I'm ready to let it go," she whispered. He blinked, confused. "Why give it back to me?" Luna smiled, tired but real. "Because it's yours now. You helped break it. Maybe now you'll help keep it safe." He said nothing, but this time, he didn't let it drop.